Hello there, fellow gamers and weebs. Before we begin, I just want to quickly thank you all for helping me surpass 300 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but hey, you know what they say. Always celebrate your smallest achievements. But with all that said, let's get to the topic of today's video. So I think we can all agree Megamind is an underrated gem. It's a great standalone movie that still holds up 15 years later. It's a true shame it got overshadowed by Despicable Me, which, yes, it was a pretty solid movie, but it's still inferior to this gem. I'm just saying. But look on the bright side. This movie knew when to end the franchise. There are no sequels whatsoever, unlike Despicable Me, which in my opinion overstayed its welcome. Wait, what do you mean there's a sequel?
Megamind is back, and you're welcome.
How stupid are they? Hey, it's been 14 years, let's make a sequel and an animated series that takes place after the sequel literally no one asked for. Sequels to standalone films, especially if it's been many years since the movie came out, almost never turn out to be good. Incredibles 2, mediocre. Kung Fu Panda 4, disappointment in the game of life. Surf's Up 2, a fucking disaster. Finding Dory... Okay, I'll be honest, I thought Finding Dory was pretty solid. Jurassic World... okay, I kinda liked that one too. Okay, there were a few good ones, but you get my point. But why make a sequel after all these years? Why now of all times when you could have made it in, say, a decade prior? Well, I'll give you my theory. The internet! Just like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Megamind has been heavily popularized in recent years, mainly due to memes, the DNA of the soul. And unfortunately, it looks like we're getting Shrek 5 in the near future, probably for a similar reason. But I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, more and more people have been watching or rewatching this movie, and realizing it's actually a banger movie. So now DreamWorks thinks everyone wants a sequel, when that couldn't be more untrue. So, let there be carnage, as I tackle the unneeded continuation, that is Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate and Megamind Rules. Starting off with Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, one of the many examples of a sequel that absolutely tarnished its own predecessor. We start off with a recap of the first movie, basically describing Megamind's ascent to herohood, and just like with Surf's Up 2, the budget decrease is noticeable. Speaking of noticeable, literally none of the voice actors from the previous movie returned for this one. Just like a certain WWE commercial that completely sucked ass. Look, the voice actors did their best, but come on, this is nothing compared to the cast in the original movie. But anyway, we get to an aquarium, where guys in fish costumes that call themselves the Go Fish Gang break in to steal a fish that's for some reason covered in diamonds. But luckily, Megamind and Minion, Old Chum, yeah, they changed his name. The movie says it's due to a cease and desist order from Mr. Minion's meatsicles, but it's probably because of Despicable Me and all that. Damn them. But yeah, now a low-budget shark that looks embarrassing on the PS1 era is released from its tank, but Megamind shoots it with the dehydration gun. Now remember this, class, cause this is very important for later on. But anyway, Megamind traps the Go Fish Gang in a porta-prison which malfunctions like 2 seconds later. And the boys run away, making a joke about the Titanic. So, Megamind, are you gonna shoot them with the gun, or... No? You're not? Bruh. So now the fish guys are in a tank, so Megamind releases his new Pokemon in their tank, and just like that, the day is saved with a Rick and Morty looking ass portal. Woo, yeah, baby! This is what I've been waiting for, that's what it's all about! So apparently Megamind is now a selfish dick to Minion, even though in the first movie, even as a villain, he viewed him as a friend. Like, 2 days ago. Huh, it's almost like a certain WWE commercial! Okay, that's the last time I'm making a reference to Surf's Up 2. Anyway, Roxanne makes a return and realizes she doesn't like her job anymore. Again, 2 days. But now some random ass kid named Keiko opens her to the world of being a Twitch streamer. Who, by the way, got 500k followers within the 2 days of Megamind being a hero. I've been doing YouTube for almost 3.5 years now, and as I'm recording this, I'm only at 345 subs. Like, come on now. Suddenly getting 500k in 2 days, unless you, I don't know, maybe pay for your subs, use bots, or were already famous beforehand, it's just downright impossible. Back to topic, now Minions had enough of being treated like shit and splits up with Megamind. Again. making significantly less sense than the first movie, which again took place 2 days prior. Yare daze. But now it's time to meet the bad guys. The Doom Syndicate, baby. Lady Doppler, some lady with weather powers. Peer Pressure, a mime with hypnotic powers. Behemoth, some Skylander looking ass guy, I don't know. Lord Nighty Night, a guy who changed his name to sound edgier, even though his former name, Fright Night, actually sounded somewhat decent. This is our gang of bad guys who, get this, are Megamind's old teammates. Something's telling me the writers either didn't even watch the first movie or just didn't give a shit, but either way, I'm sure it goes without mentioning the closest Megamind ever had to a teammate was Minion. But anyway, the Doom Syndicate find out Megamind has been crowned a hero and decide to break out of jail. A normal-ass jail, not in super secure cells like Megamind and later on Titan were in.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Haha, it's like the song, I get it, that's so funny! But yeah, the bad guys break out with no trouble and we find out Megamind has a device that can track Roxanne, which totally isn't creepy at all. And also didn't know a toaster had to be plugged in. Say, is there any brain in that massive skull or what? But here's what's important. The Doom Syndicate arrive at his lair and congratulate him. You see, they think Megamind's only pretending to be a hero in order to take over the city and we're just laying low waiting for his signal. Let's just ignore how Megamind actually took over the city in the first movie. You know, a movie that was actually good and is actually worth my limited time on Earth I'll never get back, unlike this dumpster fire. But anyway, now Megamind has to pretend he and Roxanne are evil, otherwise the Doom Syndicate would beat the living shit out of him. It's almost like Megamind doesn't have a literal gun that can turn people into cubes or anything, so of course he can't defeat 4 supervillains at once. While Minion is applying for a job, the bad guys ravage the city, going on a crime spree, all the while Megamind's cleaning up their messes. And also, Nighty Night finds a teddy bear, cause why the fuck not? Not like anyone watches this movie for the plot. Or at all, for that matter. Oh, and Megamind saves Keiko's life and she makes some vegan pancake joke, cause, again, why the fuck not? I don't know, man, I'm actually losing brain cells and dying inside while watching this. Eventually, they want to rob a bank, or rather, watch Megamind rob it. But how is Megamind gonna rob a bank? He's a good guy now. Well, Keiko pops in and claims it's all a safety drill. Luckily, the Doom Syndicate didn't hear anything that was said, so they still view him as an irredeemable monster, who stops for selfies, I guess. I don't know. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but there's this recurring joke throughout the movie that the Doom Syndicate can't make up their minds on who Megamind put in charge. Like, it wasn't really funny the first time, so what makes you think it would be funny when repeated over and over again, you know? Anyway, while Roxanne explains the plan to the incompetent mayor, Megamind was about to rest after a long day of being an evil dick and a complete dumbass.
But how do I take down 4 villains at once?
Oh gee, I don't know. Here's a crazy idea. Maybe use a specific gun you have that can turn people into cubes. Just throwing that out there. So apparently, without asking Megamind, the bad guys proceed to have a rave party and oh no, it looks like the Go Fish Gang guys from the beginning of the movie are here, and are planning on revealing Megamind's actually a hero. But here's the problem with this.
Besides, we texted some old friends who just broke out of prison. They should be here any minute.
Couldn't they just text them and reveal it instead of going through all this trouble? But hey, we get to see a dance-off between Megamind and the Greenfish guy while the other 2 guys head to the mic. Say, did they ever reveal their names? Not that it really matters since he decides to shoot them with a dehydration gun. Hold on. Let me get this straight. He'll use it on those fish fodder guys, but not the Doom Syndicate? Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? This travesty of a movie could have ended right here, because now would have been an excellent time to take out the Doom Syndicate. There is nothing indicating the dehydration gun wouldn't even work on the Doom Syndicate due to their powers. And they're nowhere near as fast as Metro Man or Titan, so shoot them with the fucking gun! Whether it's one at a time or all at once, it doesn't matter, just shoot them! They're all distracted and dancing right now, so now this is the perfect time, and you fucked it up! Anyway, now phase 2 of the diabolical plan is revealed, and get this, it's to send Metro City to the moon. You know, that reminds me of Brat's plan to send Hollywood to space, in the average corporate product that is Despicable Me 3, which is something I'd rather be watching right now. But looks like the rockets that will take Metro City to space have already been built, so now Megamind has to stall, which ends up drawing suspicion. Apparently, these guys are a bigger threat than Titan, who is basically just a more grounded and evil Superman. Because Titan was only one guy, while this is a whole ass syndicate he's up against. Again, there's nothing suggesting he can't just meet with them privately one at a time, then shoot them with a dehydration gun. But since Megamind is actually Little Mind in this movie, yeah, I know, uncreative, just like this movie, like seriously, holy fucking hell, this is just such a slog to get through. And we still have about half an hour left. But anyway, he believes the best bet for beating up the bad guys is to ask Minion for help. Oh yeah, remember when I said Minion was applying for a job? Well, he actually turned the place around, turning it into a donut place. But because Minion is so happy at his new career, Megamind leaves. But trust me, Minion will be back. I know this because, get this, this isn't the first movie I've watched in my lifetime. I know, shocker. But thankfully, after almost an hour in the movie, Megamind finally has a goddamn plan, Arthur! He uses the porta-prison he used on the Go Fish gang in the beginning of the movie. Let me rephrase that. It took 2/3 of the entire movie for Megamind to come up with this. Use a device he already has and had access to the whole time. It could have been something as simple as building a new weapon, because apparently Megamind doesn't want to use the dehydration gun for whatever reason. But no, it's... whatever. But just like in the beginning, the device malfunctions again because he never got it fixed, so what's plan B? It's just a prank, bro! No, seriously, he actually said that.
It's a prank, bros!
Oh, sorry, he said bros, as in plural. My bad. The Fish Boys are rehydrated and cancel Megamind on X by exposing the fact he's a hero now. So now Megamind gets his ass beat by the Doom Syndicate and he fucking died. Oh no. But actually he's alive and has his own Shrek Hallelujah moment. But now Roxanne and Keiko give him a pep talk or whatever. Oh, and Minion comes back. Fwa-ha-ha-ha! Just as I predicted! Said literally everyone who ever watched this lifeless movie for whatever reason. But while the bad guys are trying to break the door to the launch controls down, Megamind and crew need supplies, so they buy them at a store called Everything City. That's oddly convenient. And we also get a capitalism joke.
Paying for things! Whoever came up with that scheme is a real evil genius.
This is admittedly better than pretty much every other sad attempt this movie made at landing jokes, but okay. Oh no, the bad guys finally break down the door, but luckily 5 minutes is more than enough time to kick some ass. With some tennis balls, baby, while Minion sneaks in through the vent. That's right, the main bad guys that Megamind couldn't figure out how to beat until an hour into the movie get hurt by tennis balls. But if Megamind knows Minion, he would have successfully snuck through the layer's defenses, but guess what? Minion didn't slip through the defenses. You see, that's funny because Megamind said Minion should have slipped through by now, but it turns out Minion never slipped through. This is peak comedy. This movie earned the 9% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Wait, why is that number so fucking high? Anyway, Minion ejects his suit and makes it to the launch pad, but oh no, it's the Go Fish gang. And just like that, the launching of Metro City has finally begun in... wow, actually 5 minutes. I'm surprised. And here I thought they'd pad out the 5 minutes to like 3 hours, just like what happened in an anime I really like, and would rather be talking about than this soulless garbage that calls itself a canon sequel. Why did I decide to make this my 300 sub special? This is such a slogfest, and I haven't even gotten to Megamind's rules yet! But now Roxanne takes charge of the people cause the mayor just outright blew his chance at getting re-elected, and tells the paramedics and cops what to do cause apparently they're too stupid to figure that out for themselves. Oh, and she borrows a fire truck cause that's important for later. But because the fish guys are complete jokes, Minion managed to beat their asses without his suit and presses the cancel button. But I guess we didn't think about the fact Metro City would fall down really fast and kill everyone or something because of gravity. So now Megamind and crew have to slow it down, but not before stopping the Doom Syndicate once and for all, and tricking them into arguing who the leader is, like they have been the entire movie, cause not even an infant would find this movie funny. So Megamind takes that chance to use the secret Joestar technique.
Make haste, my fellow Doomslayers!
Anyway, Megamind takes out the bad guys one by one in a very underwhelming fashion. And he, along with the rest of the good guys, pull the lever and slow down the fall. Now Roxanne gets elected mayor because the former mayor is just an incompetent douche. And after Megamind explains the difference between a hero and a villain, a parakeet poops on him, which summarizes my thoughts on the movie. It's shit, and I never want to watch this again. Luckily, it's finally over now. But wait, it's not the end, as we still have a show to get through. Megamind Rules, which is built up with the reveal of Machiavelin, who taught Megamind everything about being evil. Yep, it's official. The writers of Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate and Megamind Rules have officially not watched the first movie. Because if they did, they would know Megamind grew up in prison and learned everything there is to know about being an evil dick from fellow inmates. I don't know if I made this clear or not, but I fucking hate this movie. It's boring as shit. The jokes are so predictable and lame. This is on the same level as Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania. Shit, I did it again. Okay, it's over now. The video's done. 0 out of 10. I'm out of here. See you, chump. Fuck this shit, man. Wait, you thought I was actually gonna talk about Megamind's rules? You really think I'm gonna waste even more of my limited time on my limited lifespan on a 16-episode show I know I'm gonna hate? I could end the video right here and get back to playing Monster Hunter. But you know what? As a thank you for helping me surpass 300 subs, I'll do it. And besides, you probably want me to talk about Megamind Rules anyway, so might as well just do it now. Just when I wanted to be done with the so-called Megamind shit for the rest of my life. It turns out Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate was nothing but a pilot for the asinine show that is Megamind Rules. But at least each episode is only about 23 minutes, as opposed to the 90-minute runtime Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate had. And the intro, it's fine, I guess. Anyway, the first episode is called Megamind vs. Dude Monkey. So while Megamind struggles to come up with a new hero monologue, there's now a robbery in Everything City. But right when Megamind and minions step in, Dude Monkey appears to stop the bad guy and... oh my god, he's streaming on Twitch. Is this the whole theme of modern Megamind? But anyway, Dude Monkey beats up the robber and says cringy things and shit that makes me question my decision to even bother watching this show. But yeah, we're now at Roxanne's office where Megamind gets headshot by a monitor that, for whatever reason, has him fall forward instead of backward. Look, I know this is fiction, but you can at least make the gravity semi-realistic. Also, oh no, the Doom Syndicate has escaped, and here I was hoping we wouldn't have to deal with those idiots for a while. Megamind and Christina get into a scrap over an aquarium gig, and now apparently Roxanne views Megamind as an annoying child? I mean, I guess it's accurate for the context of the show, but that's the thing. This and Doom Syndicate are non-canon fanfics made by people who don't know how to write. So apparently Dude Monkey is stealing all of Megamind's fans, so because of this, Megamind has to be a Twitch streamer as well, because we suddenly got from 2010 to 2024 within the span of 2 days, and they just need to relate to the kids at home because they're all hip and cool or whatever. But what do I know? I'm just some old fart making a hate video about a year-old movie and show everyone can agree is shit. Anyway, while Megamind is failing miserably at streaming, he saves a guy's life who turns out to be a Dude Monkey fan, which is a bad thing for Megamind because being some annoying Twitch streamer with a bunch of views is more important than saving the world, I guess. Oh god, this is reminding me why I hated Screwball in the Spider-Man PS4 DLC. Megamind's upset because he only got 100 views in a night, but Keiko tells him to be patient. Like, girl, you got 500k followers in 2 days. What do you mean be patient? Also, 100 views in a night is not bad considering this is your first ever video. Apparently Dude Monkey is doing the aquarium gig now and Nighty Night has been spotted, sparking the opportunity to take over that gig and getting a lot of views. Yippee! So in order to surpass Dude Monkey, Megamind posts cringe while trying to stop Nighty Night, and uploads the cringe to the internet when he thinks he's deleting them, and Dude Monkey dances on a spray painting. But luckily, Megamind's blooper reel hit 6 billion views, even though that's like his second ever video. But because he fucks up, people like him, so it all works out. So now Megamind has to capture Nighty Night, who wants to steal the diamond-covered fish from the aquarium. You know, like the Go Fish gang tried to do. There's nothing like rehashing past plot points because you're too lazy to come up with something more original, am I right? So while Dude Monkey makes a sad attempt at a speech, Nighty Night appears and Dude Monkey gets neg-diffed and gets recorded being a fraud. Megamind freezes Nighty Night, but oh no, he escaped and stole a starfish, which holds the key to bringing back Machiavelin to his former non-existent glory. Now on to episode 2, titled The Villainous Origin of Mr. Donut. Oh yeah, I forgot to elaborate on this guy, but he's the guy who hired Minion. I didn't think he'd be relevant, so... but whatever. We start off back at the donut place where Megamind and Roxanne get a tour. Megamind is constantly tempted by his new donut flavor to eat him, cause that's what all the foods want in life. To get murdered and bored. Ignore Sausage Party. But because Megamind is a man-toddler and can't wait for like 15 minutes, Roxanne tries to take it from him, and because of that, Mr. Donut slips and falls into some glaze. But Mr. Donut's okay, aside from being covered in a white and sticky substance. Oh boy, I hope the artist didn't see this episode. Anyway, Mr. Donut whispers to Megamind that he'll pay him back, which likely means he's gonna be a bad guy. I mean, the title of the episode is literally called The Villainous Origin of Mr. Donut, like for real. It's just as bad as the titles of Dragon Ball episodes that spoil what happens in the episode. So Megamind thinks Mr. Donut is gonna turn evil now, so he decides to stream it, and somehow everyone but Roxanne is buying that. So while Megamind and Minion decide to make sure Mr. Donut doesn't descend into villainy, Roxanne and Keiko agree to have an investigation of their own. Megamind gives Mr. Donut a laser gauntlet to help him run his business. But because he decided to not take a shower to wash the glaze off, it stuck to his hand. And now he goes to a bank with the gauntlet stuck, and now he looks like a bad guy, cause again, Little Mind. Now Mr. Donut gets a concussion and loses his memory, so Megamind and Minion take him to a warehouse, but looks like the Go Fish gang found him and mistake him for a villain. But because he lost his memory, Mr. Donut thinks he's actually a villain. So after a robbery, he and the fish guys convince Megamind to come to them, and looks like he and Minion get captured. Oh, and it turns out Operation Payback Megamind was just a surprise party to thank Megamind for saving Mr. Donut's life, so... yeah, that happened. And looks like the means of executing Megamind and Minion is by using bad CGI sharks. But luckily, Mr. Donut's wife comes in and helps redeem him, and after a bit of a struggle, they eventually beat the bad guys. Oh, and now the donut place is a family business, so... yeah, this was admittedly a bit more bearable than episode 1, but it still kinda sucks ass. Now on to episode 3, titled Roach Hard with a Vengeance. We start off with Megamind giving a tour of his heroic lair on camera. Keiko constantly leaves the place messier than my basement by leaving her trash everywhere. And Megamind wants Minion to clean it all up. All the while, Minion and Keiko have beef. Yeah, let's just ignore how the whole arc in Doom Syndicate is for Megamind to, you know, not treat Minion like a lackey. But anyway, it turns out Megamind's lair is infested by roaches, and he throws a hissy fit. He's scared of them. So he hides in his reinforced titanium room and asks Minion and Keiko to destroy the roaches. While looking for the roach repellent, Minion makes a number 2 joke. Get it? It's funny because number 2 means poo. This is peak comedy, chat. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. So Minion grabs a can of intelligence booster instead of a roach repellent and sprays it on. The now intelligent Roach walks into Megamind's Not a Panic room, who by the way names herself Rochelle. And now she wants to take over the world. She comes to make an announcement, and while Minion wants to hand her the spray, Keiko does not. While the cockroach army proceeds to attack the duo, they make a plan to throw the intelligence booster can into the particle collider, which fails miserably. So now they put it in the time destabilizer, which also fails. Meanwhile, Rochelle attempts to take control of Minion and succeeds. So now we finally get the lore reason why Megamind is afraid of roaches. Which, by the way, is because when he was in prison as a child, he made a bed out of sandwiches, which attracted the roaches to his face. Yeah, I guess that's understandable. I mean, roaches are fucking disturbing creatures, after all. But why tell it? Well, it's because it was long enough to distract Rochelle for Keiko to throw the can at the reboot button, which frees Minion, which is good, until Rochelle takes the can and sprays her roach brethren, and proceeds to make a long-ass speech. You realize this would be the perfect time to grab the repellent, right? Like, you two could have waited until after the fact to reconcile, but whatever. Minion comes up with an idea to use the power vac, which after a bit of distraction, a lot of the roaches go bye-bye. But Rochelle stops them, so Megamind gets over his fear by listening to himself speak, and flicks Rochelle away, and turns the power vac back on, sucking them all up. Afterwards, they send the roaches to space, and that's it. Not too bad of an episode, I guess, but still not really good. Episode 4, titled Mega Mayor, starts off with Roxanne doing her mayor duties, and Megamind and Christina acting like annoying school children. But look at this! Lady Doppler is back and being shit at talking about weather. Thanks to Megamind's new invention, he and Roxanne switch bodies, cause why not? He's Little Mind now. Roxanne gives Keiko a Defender of the City award, and we get a montage of Roxanne doing some crime stopping, while Little Mind is being a complete dumbass as the mayor. After some tension, Doppler shows up and Roxanne isn't good at fighting her, so Doppler escapes and finds Megamind, who actually did some decent mayoral work for once. Roxanne comes back and has Minion use a giant snow globe Little Mind approved to contain her, then the two switch back. I'll be honest with you, it's kinda what you expect from a body swap episode. There's not really much to talk about in this one. But hey, we're a quarter done with the show! Yeah, only a quarter. Episode 5, Extra Credit. We start off with the good guys having a little game night, only for Keiko to decide she has to leave to work on an extra credit assignment. And turns out that teacher is an old friend of Roxanne, and Megamind is all jealous and shit. So what does he do about it? Well, instead of making his own robot pal, for whatever reason he decides to steal Keiko's invention and programs it into being his quote-unquote best friend. Yet another episode where Minion plays second fiddle in Megamind's friendship, despite Doom Syndicate building a whole arc on their friendship. Nothing like character flanderization on top of character flanderization, am I right? Anyway, Megamind and Pal 3000 do a bunch of shenanigans, which causes Schlurg to leave, and Keiko calls Megamind out for stealing her project. But Pal 3000 isn't really happy about cutting ties with Megamind after their hour-long friendship, so he escapes and goes on a rampage, yeeting everyone in his path that isn't Megamind. So reluctantly, Megamind pretends to be Pal 3000's friend again. But once he saw Keiko, Pal 3000 gets pissed and grabs Megamind and brings him on the side of a building. Seeing Minion get high on electricity, which by the way is what he's been doing for the whole episode, Megamind gets an idea to use the electrified orb against him, which works, but since they're so high up, Roxanne uses a D-gravity gun on them and saves them. Oh, and Pal 3000 befriends a robot someone else made, and it was revealed Roxanne and Schlurg apparently don't have much in common, so... yeah, kind of a whatever episode if I'm being honest. Now to episode 6, titled Too Much Chum. We open up with Megamind struggling for a bunch of isotopes against Lady Doppler. This time she's with peer pressure and Nighty Night, and after a couple hours, Megamind falls asleep. Back at the lair, Megamind is clearly too tired to do any hero work at the moment, so Minion has to take care of him on his own. The obvious answer is to let him sleep, right? If he's not willing to sleep, hit him with the forget-me stick and knock his ass out. Boom! It's simple. But Minion's idea of recharging Megamind is buying tickets to an Izzy Icky show, cause everyone in the sequel era of Megamind is a dumbass. Though at least this time, Megamind acting like a dumbass is excusable, considering he's sleep deprived. But anyway, it turns out the only way to get the tickets is to head to the box office, so Minion decides to clone himself, but because he believes he's already smart enough, he decides to trade some intelligence for persistence. While the OG Minion buys the lotterized tickets and gets into a competition with Christina over who's the better assistant, the Minion clone decides to clone himself, who clones himself, who clones himself, who clones himself, to overwork each clone's flaws. And when Megamind finds out, he thinks he's dreaming, so he thinks he can take on Behemoth with his bare hands. So now Keiko has to convince Megamind he's living in reality, while he and Minion clone already have a plan to sneak up on Behemoth with an invisible car. That isn't really invisible, which goes as well as you could expect. Meanwhile, the rest of the Minions fuse together and become ginormous and beat the shit out of Behemoth. But once Megamind says, "This city will be the death of me," the giant Minion takes it literally, cause he reduced his intelligence to none to maximize his strength. Meanwhile, the OG Minion wins the lottery, but because of the situation at hand, he gives his ticket to Christina to provide assistance to Megamind and Keiko. By doing so, he sings a parody of an Izzy Icky's song, encouraging him to be good and swim away along with a clone that didn't get fused. After that, we get a scene with Machiavillain, implying he has plans for Keiko. Oh noes! Episode 7, titled A Cake for Keiko, starts off with live streaming as usual, only for Minion to bring up how Machiavillain's hairbrush was missing, which leads to us getting a little design tease. Then it's revealed it's Keiko's birthday, who was given some type of drone by Roxanne, and jack shit from Megamind, cause he can't keep his promise he made back in Doom Syndicate. Megamind, out of the blue, get it, cause he's blue, decides to make a cake. Meanwhile, Keiko snatched Megamind's disguise generator she can use to disguise herself as Nighty Night and infiltrate the Doom Syndicate hideout, which for whatever reason that was never really explained, had the former mayor there. We get a compilation of Megamind trying and failing to bake a cake, which to be honest, it's not like I can do much better. All the while, Keiko has been doing various chores for the Doom Syndicate, but oh no, looks like the real Nighty Knight walks in, which means there's an imposter among us. Yeah, I made an Among Us joke in 2025, got a problem with that? Anyway, there's a bit of a mix-up between who's the real Nighty Knight, only for Machiavellian to expose the truth in like 2 seconds, thanks to Megamind's disguise generator. I still don't buy how literally no one but Machiavellian noticed the watch. But whatever. Keiko convinces the bad guy she's interested in joining the Doom Syndicate, so in order to test her loyalty, Machiavellian assigns her to steal Megamind's binky. She succeeds in doing so, but she hands it to the former mayor to give Machiavellian a fake, which gets him to reveal the master plan, which actually covers continuation from previous episodes. In a nutshell, rebuild Machiavellian's body. You think she could have just said, that plan's fucking based, and left, right? But no. She outright admits to giving Machiavellian a fake, cause this is a Megamind sequel, meaning everyone's an idiot. So Keiko escaped, but the thing is, Machiavellian is literally the only competent character in the show since he swapped the binkies. And now Machiavellian gets his body back, and look at this, cliffhanger baby! Next episode, which was originally a finale but is only the halfway point unfortunately, episode 8 titled Who Wants to Save a City, picks up where we left off, and now we finally get to see Machiavellian's design, and all I gotta say is, ew, that's nasty. And just when I thought the rest of the Doom Syndicates looked awful. Anyway, today's apparently an eventful day for Metro City, thanks to a comet passing. Keiko tells Minion about giving away Megamind's binky to Machiavellian, and oh, speak of the devil, right when Megamind's already running late for an event. Machiavellian comes in to make an ultimatum, and they have a little back and forth thing, leading up to a little game show thing, where Megamind only has an hour to complete 3 trials. In each of those, he encounters the Doom Syndicate, who he takes out with relative ease, at least for the first 2. The 3rd trial is in Megamind's lair, where Machiavellian, Nighty Knight, and Behemoth sneak in, and things are bad with Megamind's brainbots on the loose. But Megamind has an Uno reverse card with a laser satellite. But it turns out Machiavellian also has an Uno reverse card, where he apparently reprogrammed the targeting system, which launched the comet off course set to destroy the city. Now we get some lore behind Megamind beating Machiavellian the first time, which apparently it was never intentional, since he burned his fortress down by heating up a burrito. But now he can by powering up his gun with the power of friendship, so he shoots the comet and fails. So now Metro City along with everyone in it is set to be destroyed. They've met a terrible fate, haven't they? But nope, Machiavellian steps in to play the hero and destroy the comet, and everyone is cheering and shit. Bro, his name is Machiavellian. Villain is literally in his name. Are you stupid? Oh, wait, this is a Megamind sequel. Well, that answered my question. Keiko fesses up about stealing Megamind's binky, and surprisingly, Megamind was a chill guy. Then Machiavellian makes a press conference painting Megamind as the bad guy, cause you can definitely trust a guy whose name involves a synonym for bad guy. But there is one ace in the hole left. Metro Man. Dun. No, don't you dare bring Metro Man into this. You already fucked up enough characters. Like, I am on my knees and begging, please, don't drag him into this. But on the bright side, we're halfway there. Oh god, we're only halfway done with this nightmare. Please just let this end already. I've had enough of this shit. I will never understand how a whole ass 2nd season got approved when everyone collectively hated Doom Syndicate and rules. But whatever. Episode 9, Hero for a Day opens up with Machiavellian faking heroics with the Doom Syndicate. Again, villains in the name. But anyway, Megamind and Minion now live in Keiko's basement, and because they found out his hideout's been abandoned off-screen, they have given up on looking for Metro Man. So now Megamind wants to spend the rest of his life in Keiko's basement, doing nothing but eating donuts. Speaking of which, Megamind believes the cure to his depression is breaking the curfew he has to follow, despite being an adult and buying more donuts. Look, donuts are really good and all that, but I'm pretty sure Megamind can go a night without eating donuts, but whatever. Megamind and Minion get donuts, leading up to a 4th wall break.
In fact, I often like to imagine our lives are a television show on a popular streaming service, loved by all.
The duo loses the invisible car they took, so now they have to retreat on foot. On the way, they run into a kid named Terry, who was Megamind's former #1 fan, who does a shit job at taking down Megamind, who somehow views the 3-foot-tall kid in pajamas armed with nothing but a jump rope as a threat. But now he is a threat since Machiavellian gave him Megamind's rejected inventions. Also, apparently now Mr. Donut makes Machiavellian donuts, so Megamind has no hope now. So he and Minion go in the dumpster, which is where the script for the Megamind sequel belongs. But Terry continues to pursue them. After a long chase, Megamind and Minion are backed into a corner, but they disappear. So now Terry uses a shark launcher setting, which has a massive kickback strong enough to launch him into a shark's mouth, but Megamind saves him just in time.
So, Machiavellian is a bad guy?
Oh my, what a shocker! A guy with the word villain in his name is actually a villain? Who could have seen that coming? Not me. Now Megamind isn't willing to give up anymore, but instead wants to win everyone back one at a time, before he and Minion get chased by a mob. Eventually, they run into Roxanne in a dark alley, who's not only willing to help defeat Machiavellian, but also convince Keiko's mother to let the duo stay in the basement until Machiavellian is exposed on X.com for saying the N-word. And she approves. Kind of a boring episode as usual, but whatever. We got 7 episodes left of this shit. Let's get it over with. Now we move on to episode 10, titled Of Mice That Are Men. The title gives me the same vibe as a book I was forced to read during freshman year that I think got a substitute teacher I had fired for saying the N-word. True story. Anyway, Megamind comes back home with donuts, or a singular donut I guess. Yeah, donuts are a recurring theme in the show, I don't know why. So now Megamind has to come up with a disguise so he can walk among the masses and figure out the crimes that go on to restore his reputation. He applies for a job in Everything City with the alias Michael Mind, and is being hired by the former mayor. Glad to see he's doing well. By the way, this Michael guy looks hella cursed. I mean, that forehead's bigger than Vegeta's, ain't no way. So Minion makes a pet translator and informs the undercover Megamind about some fishy occurrences at night. Thank you. I'll be here all night. Machiavellian drops by to deliver some merch and gets suspicious with Michael Mind. Oh, and Christina has a crush on this thing for whatever reason. The former mayor closes the store and everything's all creepy and shit with giant rat people. But luckily, Minion made a gun that shoots bubbles that explode on impact. Keiko somehow gets in the store and decides to help Megamind by setting up traps, but she gets taken to the ceiling. But everything's all good apparently, so let's get the lore drop. The rat's name is Dan, a former employee of the month who vanished and has a very predictable origin story. In a nutshell, similar origin story to characters like Lizard or Man-Bat, where, you know, scientific experiment gone wrong and becomes an animal man. His name is Hugh Mouse now, and he's in a constant state of fear, cause Machiavellian's merch is so cheap, they spontaneously combust on impact. Megamind reveals himself and promises Hugh Mouse everyone will like him or whatever, but does it work? Nope. Everyone is freaking the fuck out and are promised to be rewarded with a discount if they capture him. But someone knocks over a Machiavellian figure which starts a fire and the former mayor gets trapped by a giant box. So Megamind steps in and gives the guy a hand. Hugh Mouse clears a path for the people and just like that everyone is saved. And he boosted his rep. Just had to lie about Michael, but whatever. The former mayor steps down as the owner of the store and hands it to Dan. Episode 11, titled Game Over, starts with Megamind in the donut store playing a mobile game, only for Minion to call, revealing the location of Metro Man. He heads to an alleyway, but instead of meeting Minion, he gets captured by Lady Doppler, and finds himself back in his lair. He runs into the Doom Syndicate, and he used the dehydration gun. Wait, what? Am I reading that right? He actually used the dehydration gun? Well, now we have proof Megamind has no excuse to not use it during the movie other than sheer stupidity. But anyway, with the Mega Man death sound effect, this causes a reset. We get a montage of Megamind trying to use other weapons and getting game overed. Turns out the key to not get game overed is to not attack the Doom Syndicate, so Megamind's stuck in this video game for a while. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang is watching Crab Cake Wars, only for them to realize they can't get a hold of Megamind. Megamind then realizes the only way he can progress in this game is to be a villain, and as a surprise to literally no one, Machiavellian is behind it. Megamind goes on a crime spree while Machiavellian is slowly rewiring his brain. Doppler releases Megamind into the real world, with him thinking he's still in the game where there's no consequences to his actions. That's oddly clever for a Megamind sequel, I'll give it that. Once he nearly kills Roxanne, he redeems himself and finds out he's not in the game anymore. Megamind then gets captured by Machiavellian and goes back to prison. Still not that good of an episode, but I'll admit, it had a pretty solid concept. Now on to episode 12, titled Blue Prison. We begin with Megamind going to his cell, and to his luck, he goes into a cell he can escape easily from. But not in his luck. The Doom Syndicate is here to thwart his plans of escaping, so he needs assistance this time around. Apparently Dude, Monkey, and Humouse got arrested, so they're conveniently here to help him escape, while the Doom Syndicate keeps stopping them over and over again. But turns out Metro Man is in prison as well. Oh, sorry, he's Music Man now. And he's in there so he can write a prison blues song, and only then would he help Megamind escape. So Megamind brings him to a fellow inmate to help bring inspiration, and it works. But apparently Metro Man has stage fright and flies away and claims he never played music in front of anyone before. Sure, let's ignore that scene in the first movie where he played for Megamind and Roxanne. Meanwhile, Roxanne pretends to expose Machiavellian for being a villain in order to draw out the Doom Syndicate, where he would fake fight them, which is the perfect opportunity for escape, but Megamind stays behind to help Metro Man overcome his stage fright, because the power of friendship is more important than saving Metro City, I guess. But it all works out in the end, so good for him, I guess. Metro Man paves the way and scares the shit out of the Doom Syndicate, so the good guys escape. Oh yeah, and now Machiavellian has to listen to heroic requests now, thanks to Roxanne. Next, episode 13, titled The Art of Destruction, opens up with a new character, which by the way is once in a blue moon and Megamind rules. But anyway, Carla has to take down her building. We don't just get a new character though, we get a new location, New Delaware. Nice to see they're finally doing the bare minimum. But anyway, that's where the good guys are, and thanks to Metro Man's punching a hole in the ground, Carla falls into some toxic waste and gets superpowers. Metro Man did this in order to dig up a rock, which allows him to trade powers with Megamind, since he only wants to make music. While Megamind's messing around with his new powers, Carla, now named Destruction Worker, goes on a rampage, while Machiavellian finds an opportunity to escape the crowd. And we find out Megamind has gotten dumber, while Metro Man got smarter and cartoonishly weaker. Honestly though, Megamind's been an idiot since Doom Syndicate, so I don't really see a difference here. But anyway, Midian is now the brains of the operation, and they have to defuse a bunch of bombs, all the while Roxanne desperately tries to convince the little Delawareans to evacuate. Once the good guys drag Metro Man into the scene, he and Megamind team up to move the bombs to safely destroy the building. Metro Man's new song sucks so much ass, the new Delawareans evacuate, and then the building explodes and the bad guy loses, which then results in more people siding with Megamind, since Machia never showed up because he's a bum-ass fraud. Then Megamind and Metro Man switch back their powers and oh no! Megamind's parakeet sneaks in, and steals the rock they used, which is the key to beginning the final phase of Machiavellian's evil plan. Though this is the last time we'll ever see Metro Man since he decided to go on tour. Oh well, at least we're almost done here. And now we get to episode 14, titled Mission Machia Fest. This episode opens up with Megamind and Roxanne finally arriving at Machiavellian's lair. Or so we thought, cause it turns out it was all a dream. Machiavellian instated a curfew against Roxanne's wishes because he wants all of Metro City to hear his song. The good guys all meet up, coming up with a plan to expose Machiavellian, and Megamind twerks. But anyway, the plan is to take possession of the Brainbot's memory cards, looking for evidence of his evil deeds. But nothing came up, so the only hope is for Roxanne to take the memory card from the parakeet, while getting Machiavellian to basically suck his own dick, which gives Roxanne the opportunity to spend the whole day chasing the parakeet. Meanwhile, the rest of the good guys infiltrate Machia Fest, and holy shit, Michael Mind is back, baby! But yeah, after Roxanne obtains the memory card, Megamind removes his disguise and gets captured. And same goes for the rest of the good guys. Roxanne heads to the control panel while Machiavellian sings his song, which I guess kills everybody or something. I don't know, it was never explained what happens if he finishes his song. But then he gets exposed for being a villain after some technical difficulties. And the good guys win! Yippee! Show's over! Or so we thought, cause the Doom Syndicate's here, and Machiavellian finishes his banger song, which hypnotizes everyone present but Megamind into turning into villains. I never thought I'd say this, but Megamind Rules is actually being competent now. I mean, Machiavellian's song did not have to go so fucking hard. Like, holy shit, is this where all the budget went? Also, when is this releasing so I don't have to deal with the interruptions? Whatever. While we wait for that, let's finish this shit up. Now the penultimate episode, titled Villain City, starts with Keiko recovering from her sickness, which caused her to miss Machia Fest. Megamind meets up with Keiko, and we get the lore reason why Megamind was spared, which is because Machiavellian wouldn't be satisfied with just turning him into a villain and calling it a day. He wants Megamind to choose villainy, which is fair, I guess. Now we just gotta figure out why Keiko was spared. Meanwhile, the Doom Syndicate decide they don't like everyone being a villain due to the fact it makes quote-unquote real villains like them obsolete. I can see why, but I see one problem with this. Why did they help Machiavellian in the first place? They had to have known his plan from the get-go. Like, did they just think he'd sing the song and nothing happened? Are they stupid? What am I saying? Yes, they are! So they decide to betray Machiavellian while the good guys are testing theories on why Keiko was spared. All of which, at this point, are proven untrue, so they plan on capturing one of the hypnotized bad guys. Meanwhile, Machiavellian commands Minion to dance, which leads to another twerking scene. Megamind and Keiko decide to use her mother as a test subject, and it turns out cotton balls are the cure. The lore explanation is Machiavellian's S-tier high notes are what hypnotized the city. Since Keiko didn't hear it thanks to her cold, she's still a good guy. And now the plan to stop Machiavellian is to take out the satellites he stole from Megamind. By doing so, they have to make their way through evil Metro City. Meanwhile, at the lair, the Doom Syndicate turn against Machiavellian and he neg-diffs them. He then attaches the Stone of Transference to a vacuum and steals their powers and Pierre's accent.
Well, at least I still have my French accent.
Is it just me, or did the jokes actually get better? Like, did they fire the previous writers or something? Cause this is a complete 180. Anyway, the good guys finally arrive and Megamind is so close to pressing the missile button, but Minion brings up Machiavellian's donuts, and Megamind gets so offended he blows his cover. After Machiavellian fails time and time again to convince Megamind to be a villain again, Keiko reveals the twist, jumps on top of him, and steals the binky. Without the binky, Machiavellian's physical form disintegrates, but he somehow released his consciousness into the computer and transferred the Doom Syndicate's powers to Roxanne. This is it, baby. The last stretch. Let's get to the finale. The final episode, titled Thrilling Conclusions, picks up where we left off with the evil Roxanne encounter. Machiavellian programs the satellite to turn everyone on Earth into a villain. Since Megamind doesn't have access to his gadgets, he has to go on a shopping spree at Everything City to build a weapon, while Keiko holds onto the binky and gets hypnotized into revealing his location. Oh yeah, and now everyone is after the binky. Roxanne arrives at Everything City, and Megamind escapes with his newly built weapon. Or at least escapes from the store before Roxanne follows him. Meanwhile, Keiko frees the useless Doom Syndicate and the brain bots that pretty much do all the work. Roxanne destroys Megamind's weapon and hypnotizes him into fighting himself. Then Keiko gives Minion headphones which frees him from his corruption, but she just leaves the binky on the ground, even though her whole arc recently is just being depressed for giving it to Machiavellian in the first place. Machiavellian sucks up the binky while Megamind gets the living shit beat out of him, which leads to him being on top of the tower Roxanne was on in the first movie. Megamind constantly uses Talk no Jutsu on Roxanne, which eventually redeems her after trial and error, and they finally smooch. Yippee! We finally get progress on the ship after 14 years of nothing. Roxanne destroys the satellite, and just like that, everyone's good again. But oh no, Machiavellian's back. And then he gets crushed by a piece of the satellite. Anyway, the bad guy lost and is now trapped in Megamind's phone, permanently stuck as a digital assistant. Or at least I hope it's permanent, because I do not want a second season of this. Roxanne implies she never gave the Doom Syndicate their powers back, but she doesn't really do anything when they hear about the Go Fish gang doing villain stuff, and we end there. Honestly, I went into this show expecting this whole thing to be some cringy Twitch streaming show. I expected this to be full-blown ass, judging from the first episode alone. But in the long run, it actually got better. I mean, it still has nothing on the OG Megamind, but the second half of Megamind Rules actually somewhat made up for its atrocious start. But yeah, let's get to the final verdict. Starting off with Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate. This was just a horrendous mess. It was built up as this big sequel to follow up a decade-old gem. Instead, we get a shitty, low-budget disservice that forever tarnished Megamind's legacy, which likely discouraged people from watching Megamind Rules, which, honestly, I don't blame them. I mean, I was already exhausted after Doom Syndicate. I felt like I was in over my head from saying I'll throw in Megamind Rules to hit two birds with one stone. But I digress. I think what I hate most about this movie is that it's so fucking boring and unbearable to watch. Like, why didn't Megamind just use the dehydration gun the first chance he got? Like, it's sheer stupidity like this that just fucks everything up. Speaking of stupidity, the Doom Syndicate are not any better. With their constant arguing over who the leader is that definitely didn't get old fast, and just their overall incompetence, gives me a very hard time taking these villains seriously. I know it's a kids movie, but look at Titan from the first movie. Yes, he's had his comedic moments, but he was still a legitimate threat we could take seriously. The Doom Syndicate? Far from that. Also, fun fact, the Doom Syndicate were actually characters scrapped from the first Megamind movie, except they were actually solid villains. One of the villains is named Psychedelic and is some type of disco villain, who ended up appearing in the video game Ultimate Showdown. And get this, he's voiced by Keith David. Yeah, the guy who voices Spawn.
As far as I know, I'm already dead. Which means I'm waiting for your sorry ass in the afterlife.
But anyway, I don't think I have anything left to say about this, so to plug it all in, I rate Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate a 0 out of 10. But Megamind's rules, on the other hand, actually surprised me. Yeah, we had a very rough and unpromising start, but over time, I got slightly invested. It goes to show what a somewhat competent villain can do for a story. Machiavellian was a legitimate threat with very brilliant and creative schemes, but I just can't wrap my head around the fact everyone in Metro City trusted him despite the word villain being in his name. Which goes into my next point. Pretty much everyone is an idiot, and that includes Megamind. You have no idea how many times I facepalmed from Megamind's antics, and how his donuts are somehow more important than staying in the shadows when everyone hated him. But again, during the final act, I was honestly surprised. It still wasn't good, don't get me wrong, but it was a massive improvement. It went from being an asinine cash grab to an actually competent addition to the franchise. Though I'd fix the writing to make things a bit more believable, like for example giving Machiavellian a different origin story, cause he being the guy who taught Megamind everything about being evil just doesn't add up. But with all said and done, I rate Megamind Rules a 2 out of 10. The second half carried the show, need I say more? As I said in the beginning, I have a feeling this sequel was made in the first place thanks to its recent popularity, which mostly came from memes. Now I wonder if the same thing will happen for Metal Gear Rising. Say, if you work for Konami and are watching this video, which you probably aren't, but if you are, I'm pretty sure you have a decent idea of what not to do in a sequel. Speaking of sequels, Shrek 5 is looking very interesting. I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but Shrek Forever After was the perfect stopping point for the franchise. So conceptually, I am honestly not a big fan of Shrek 5. But whatever, I guess you can't really judge something before it releases. Only time will tell. Alright, I'll wrap things up here. But before I do, I want to thank you all for 300 subscribers, and let's see if we can get to 400 soon. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya, chump!